What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So thank you for tuning in. We're almost a daily podcast now, right? So 4 out of 5 work days, I consider that daily. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion. Thursdays when I have interviews with people in the industry or adjacent to it called Ask a CISO Speak. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, sports, games, all that cool stuff. We're also on 99.1 FM out in the Atlanta metro area, but you can also listen to us on the TuneIn app. Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, and then it really rotates, but usually it's on the weekend on Channel 10 in the DC Fairfax area. We're on Channel 10 Public Access. So we don't really have a specific day. It kind of just rotates. So check us out everywhere, right? That just helps us broaden our reach. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from KOCO.com, written by Kelly Thomas. And the title of this one is Edmond Cybersecurity CEO accused in major hack at hospital. So what ended up happening was there was this cybersecurity firm owner, right? And what happened is he's accused of engineering a major attack at a local hospital, right? So for those of you that may be a little bit in the know, one of the more famous hackers that's ever been out there is Kevin Mitnick, right? So he passed a couple years ago. And Mitnick's thing was social engineering and just pretending like you belong somewhere is the way to go about, is 70% of the game, right? And that's kind of what this guy did here, right? So not hired on by the hospital, mind you, right? So he was just out there to prove a point. You know, Ryan and I were talking offline, and we were kind of breaking this up, and I was like, he kind of seems like the guy from the Cybersecurity Die Hard one with Justin Long, where the guy was like, I know better than anybody, like what the vulnerabilities are, and I'm going to prove it, right? I'm going to show you how vulnerable you are to these different things. That's kind of what this guy is. So Jeffrey Bowie is the CEO they're talking about for the cybersecurity company based in Edmond. So St. Anthony Hospital was where he went, and he was walking in and was just trying to get onto their network, right? To kind of just prove, hey, it can be done and how easy it is. But again, he wasn't hired as you know, a cybersecurity expert for this hospital, right? So when you do things like that, you can't just walk around installing malware into the system just to prove that you can do it and then be like, hey, see how vulnerable you are? No, that's not what you're supposed to be doing here. You are attacking them at that point, and they treated it as such. So they found him and arrested him. But here's the thing, though. So even with this being the case and this guy going out trying to prove a point, what he did prove is that we talk about hospitals and things like that are soft targets. Like, this is one of the things where he should have never been able to do this. Like, if he had plugged anything into any computer, there should have been some type of data loss prevention or some type of scan or something that should not have allowed this to happen, right? You need to have like a white list of devices that are approved to go into your network, things of that nature. It takes a lot of work, right, to do these things and to start this up, but that should have been what happened, especially when it comes to in a medical network, right? Whether it be a hospital, a clinic, or whatever it is, right? Because there is so much vital information to be taken from that, right? Not just your PII with your social and things of that nature, but your PHI as well, right? So we've talked about this before in past articles, to where if PHI gets out there, it can be used for blackmail purposes, right? If someone knows, you know, you're sick for whatever reason, right? It can be one of those things where it can tank, you know, stocks for a company, or it can make it to where future plans from someone, if you know someone's, you know, got some type of terminal illness that's not going to be around for too much longer, you're not too willing to listen to what they're going to put out there, you know, from a company standpoint or whatever. Just throwing it out there. I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening, but yeah, it took this guy less than 10 minutes to do what he did, though, right? Like, his malware was designed to take a screenshot every 20 minutes and forward the image out to an external IP address. Again, another thing, right? Like, you should not have this information just going through your firewalls all willy-nilly, right? Going to an external address. But yeah, this guy, and he has a history of being a little difficult, right? Like, he was fired from a previous cybersecurity firm for kind of doing things like this, going out and doing his own thing, or trying to say he knows better than everybody else. But folks, be careful out there. And when I say folks, I'm not talking about individual people necessarily. I'm talking about these companies, right? I'm talking about these medical conglomerates that stuff like this shouldn't happen in 10 minutes, right? This should have been so much harder than this, and it should have failed miserably. But again, it was the social media aspect of it. You just walk in. If you walk in and pretend like you belong, or you walk in a FedEx outfit or construction outfit or maintenance or janitorial services, people tend to leave you alone, right? You should question those things. And I think it's one of those things where, Ryan and I, coming from, DOD and working in spaces that we've worked in, we know to question things that don't look right. Like, hey, who are you? You know what I mean? Never seen you before. Or, how are you in this space? You know what I mean? Where's your badge? Where's this? But that didn't necessarily happen here. Ryan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, he definitely thought he was on the Ocean's crew. He was walked in and thought he was just going to have his way. But so I have to say everything's alleged, right? Okay, so we can stay out of trouble as well. So allegedly he did all this. Allegedly it was for nefarious reasons. But it doesn't make sense for it to not be for nefarious reasons, because the number one rule for a pen tester is you have to have a clear authorization, staying within legal and ethical boundaries, maintaining open communication with stakeholders, and documenting all steps taken. Like, you have to have the contract signed before you start, because if you start before the contract is signed, you are a hacker. You can be subject to the full extent of the law, and it's to cover your own butt. So, like, something does go down, it was not for whatever reason, either you made a mistake, or their network is not set up properly, or another hacker is in there, doing real hacking things, and it takes them down. You don't have fiduciary responsibility. So that's the biggest part. But in this case, it's one thing to prove a point, to sneak into a facility and then say, hey, I got in here and I was able to, I could have had my way. And it's another thing to actually drop a payload on a system. I'm like, you don't put screen capture malware on a system if you're just trying to demonstrate how something works. You just instead put like a dummy file or something like that, just something to say, hey, I was here, I was able to put my foot in your network, and I could have had a substantial impact. You don't actually put the thing on there. So that's why I'm just like, I don't see a way of this not being for nefarious reasons. But everybody's innocent till proven guilty in the court of law, right? And he will definitely be going to a trial of some sort.
And you know what's disheartening about this is, like, it's not new. Like, the whole social engineering thing, it's not new. So I brought up Kevin Mitnick, right? And I had to look this up because I know he'd been around for a while. But he's written books on like, doing this and whatnot. And when I looked, I want to say the earliest I saw, I think it was like 2003 was his first book. So he was caught in the mid 90s. I want to say it was like 95 or 96. Like, the FBI caught him. He was sentenced, did some time. And it was one of those things where it's kind of like Catch Me, Leo, and Catch Me If You Can, right? Like, work for us to tell us how you did these different things and whatnot. And, he had done his time, served his obligation for what he had done, his prison time.
His debt to society.
His debt to society. That's the way to put it. There you go. Thank you. But like, his first book was like 2003, right? So this is 20 plus years of him saying, if you act like you belong there, if you dress a certain way, you do it with confidence. This is not new. Why are we still in this day and age? Why is it still not common, to question people that just, like, if I was to go somewhere, and I do this all the time where I work, like, I will see people that would be outside of our facility, and I ask them, I'm like, hey, are you looking for someone? Have you called whoever you need? Blah blah blah. Like, just hanging around and loitering. And granted, this is in a facility that has some security. There is some defense in depth to get to the facility at work. But I'm always asking if someone's just standing out there. Like, it's a practice that was ingrained in me early on. You know what I mean? Maybe because of the whole military aspect of it.
I was going to say bystander intervention. We're actually given courses and things of that nature to overcome those uncomfortableness, right? Because if we're all indoctrinated, there's a pass. Like, oh, well, he was just checking me out because, I was loitering or whatever. But I think because the masses are not exposed to that, right, it's taboo. It's like, you should mind your own business. But in this case, see what happens when you mind your own business? Yeah, I kind of digress, because I get it, right? Like, the 99% are not checking people on a regular basis. Like, hey, what you doing out here? Because you might get socked in the nose, right? In the military, it's just common practice. Like, hey, what you doing? Right? What unit are you from? Never seen you a day in my life. So it's a little bit, I guess, we're a little bit more bold in that respect. Plus, we'll sock somebody back. Like, we both effed around and found out. So I just think we have a different mindset because of being exposed over and over again. Because most people don't want to be like, they say, like, if you yell rape, you're less likely to get help as opposed to yelling fire, right? Like, stuff like that. Like, just that weird psychology of society, because people just like, hey, I want to be involved in that. I ain't trying to show up and potentially get called the culprit at that point. But in the military, like, you're punished for not doing so. Like, all of y'all are in trouble now because so and so was able to tailgate and get in here. So we failed the inspection. So it just indoctrinated differently. So it's interesting. It truly is. So I'm glad, like, yeah, their first level of defense failed miserably. They let him in. He was able to put the payload on there. But someone eventually did like, hey, this dude looks suspicious. And they called the cops. So I'm glad at least, second and third line of defense kicked in. But
that's the best. But that's probably one of the lesser reliable ones, though, right? For somebody to say something, just like the point you're making, it is less reliable for somebody to say something. You should have had the technological defenses to not let that happen, right?
Yeah,
like
very true.
A DLP or something like that would not allow it. It would have blocked it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like XDR or MDR solution or something like that. Like it's getting to a point now. Like I can't even like my Outlook on my phone is controlled by my company because I allowed them in. I was like, it'd be easier to do it this way so I can check email if I'm in the car. But the yesterday I tried to copy and paste, and from my own personal email address that happens to also be an Outlook app, and it was like protected by parent company. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't like that. I can't copy and paste my own Outlook. But again, for their protection, I can't exfiltrate data. I can't drop a payload on my own phone because I allowed them in for that convenience. So it should be the same thing when it comes to their systems inside the hospital itself.
You can't X or infiltrate.
Yeah. Yeah, it really shocked me. I was like, oh yeah, I did set it up where I have I forget what it's called, the SIM or whatever. Like for me to access my work email, I had to agree that they could control my email at that point. So lesson learned. So definitely continue to tune in. Again, Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, Ask a CISSP. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that cool stuff. We have some cool movies and games to talk about this week. Then, yeah, continue to check us out on all the platforms we're available on. Either you can go to the other side of the firewall, the other side of the FW, or Ask a CISSP, and you will find an episode or something involving us. And then you can hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You can find me pretty much everywhere, but LinkedIn is where I am most active. Stay safe, stay secure.